so. I think so. Do you want me to double check?
I'll double check.
Just. I think actually type in cancel. I think. Is it not true we used to not come up?
17,
It used to be the
17.
Yeah. Grease is the word.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Council. I am Luke Anthony Walsh, and joining me is the Boris Johnson to my David Cameron, Mr. Michael Brown.
Hello there, Luke. You wouldn't believe that we're recording this at almost 7, would you? I mean, it used to be back in the day, because of it getting dark in the evenings, people would know when we weren't on the ball and we
British summertime, huh? It's all about that daylight savings.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. Like I feel, and the funny thing is, it's not even I don't know about where you are, but right now it's like kind of overcast storm clouds, and yet somewhere the sun's coming in. So it's good to have
if April could be a mood, it would be this current cloud amalgamation.
Yeah, literally all I can see in front of me is just dense storm cloud, and yet I can also see rays of sun, just like it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It truly is.
I guess before we start proceedings, I think we did definitely shot ourselves in the foot, because obviously since the last time we spoke, the Duke of Edinburgh himself, Prince Philip, has passed away. Of course, 2 weeks ago we spoke about the royal family. You can go back and listen to our conversation there. Michael, your thoughts?
Yeah. So basically, I was, of course, you won't be surprised to know that I had this as a thing to cover. Prince Philip died at age 99, and it is, he was an interesting guy. Of course, one of the things we cover on this show is controversial news stories to make light of them, some might say, and Prince Philip was, of course, famous for his gaffes, his inappropriate comments. I did have some inappropriate comments I wanted to run by you. I don't know if these are the best.
Should we save them for later?
Yeah, I thought so.
Segment, and we'll jump straight in. Of course, as always, we'll be going through your council issues and going through this week's headlines and comments. Without further ado, I'm going to go first. I want to cancel airport terminals.
Now, okay, what specifically about airport terminals?
Well, obviously, London Luton Airport is right on our doorstep, right?
Yes.
If in pre-COVID
and not on London's doorstep, by the
way. that's another story. If Michael, if you wanted to get on a flight from Luton to Paris, for example, to complete a hypothesis, you'd have to spend about an hour and a half, 2 hours going from the door of the terminal building to the check-in desk, to a mile of terminal through security, through duty free, through all the hoops and rings you could think of, and then you step on the plane.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. See, I remember, I feel like it's got more lax since when I was a kid, which kind of makes sense because I was a kid around 9/11. I mean, I think I had. So 9/11 happened for me when I was when I just turned 6, I think.
Yeah.
Which I'd obviously probably been on flights before then, but I couldn't really remember them. So my memory is literally like the idea of having to get to the airport like 3 hours before your flight. But I think that was probably because it was right after 9/11 and like things were a lot more hectic. Of course, I didn't realize what was happening. I just remember thinking, "Wow, you've got to sit around for a long time." But yeah, nowadays it does feel like it's faster and yet it's still very slow, and I think it's interesting because if you are a nervous flyer, as I am, it kind of varies from flight to flight how nervous I am, but having the massive build up makes it worse, like knowing that you've got this like period just waiting. I think the benefit there is by the time I'm actually on the flight, it's been like, it's already been so long that I've actually been in the airport that I'm like,
It's not even that. To make, I guess, a fair comparison, if you wanted to go from London to Paris for the Eurostar, you buy your ticket, go through the concourse, and you're there. If you want to get a bus, it's the same. Like, it has to be airports. Are not built in this way.
Yeah, I think ferries are quite slow too, but that's almost not surprising. Like I think it's been a while actually. I remember on this is going to sound incredibly middle class. One time I did go on a school trip to France. How posh is that? But no, yeah.
Monsieur. Oh la la,
Yeah.
monsieur.
Oh, monsieur, can I have the grape? Anyway, basically, the funny thing is, I still remember we were watching X-Men on the way down, and I was like, man, this film's boring because it's for nerds. I said that so all my friends would be impressed. No, basically, and I remember obviously then it was kind of like that was a big slow thing. But when you think about it, that's literally because you're driving cars onto a boat. I think you can kind of expect that to take a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and I mean, even with the Eurostar, like you drive cars onto a train, and yeah, even that's quite fast.
Well, we're not talking about that, are we? We're talking
Yeah,
about solely on if you are a
yeah,
passenger and you want to go from
yeah, that's
London,
quicker.
St Pancras
Yeah,
to Paris. Loading up is obviously going to take a while.
yeah.
Down at Blackwater, I want to say.
I don't know. All I know is that you see, the only place I remember having been on the Eurostar once in memory, no, actually twice, is that we we stopped at Ashford. So I know Ashford's very close, but that's not really surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ashford's kind of around there, but I think Ashford isn't technically coastal, is it? Although having said that, the Eurostar, I actually found out, by the way, lots of Americans don't even know that the Channel Tunnel exists, and when they find out about it, they're actually quite like shocked. They're like, "Wow,
they're going to want to build a tunnel underneath the Atlantic. That's what they're going to want to do."
Yeah, they're going to have to one up us. But yeah, basically,
actually, no, that's a good point. Do you think there'll ever be a time, like 3,000 years in the future, there'll be a tunnel in between the US and
3,000 years in the future,
and they'll look at history and go, "Well, wasn't the Titanic a very silly thing to do?"
Well, you know what, Luke? I think there will be, and I think it's because, and this is actually a good kind of full circle thing. I think it's because aeroplanes as a mode of transport, I think, are going to go out the window. And the reason for that, and like this is kind of a personal sort of, this is moving a bit away from the idea of terminals, but one macroscopic policy I would support is if there was a European initiative to basically replace all intracontinental, so within the continent, flight with bullet trains. Because of course in China, they have bullet trains. In South Korea and Japan and things like that. You could be like, if you were in, I don't know, Sapporo, right in the north of Japan, and you wanted to go all the way down to Nagasaki or somewhere, you wouldn't get a plane. You would just go on the bullet train. And bullet trains are, I think, almost as fast as planes. They go really fast. And I just think like that's what we should do. So I think it's possible, with that said, I don't think there'd ever be a tunnel though. I think because that's like, well, no, it's kind of weird. I wonder how difficult it'd be, because I was thinking to myself they might do something over, like,
bridge.
Like a bridge. Maybe they'd go up to like Greenland. I don't know, like up to Iceland, then up to Greenland, and then. But even then, it could be the case, obviously, unless they're going to make it like float. I guess I don't know. Yeah. The thing is, obviously, I think if they were able to make it work above water, I don't think they'd ever bother to build a tunnel. They'd just be like, why bother? But yeah, I do think that there will be as it were, kind of land connection between all of the continents at some point. And because I kind of think planes are just, they're inescapably polluting. Like obviously bullet trains, you can line the tracks with solar panels and stuff, and you can hook it up to the electrical grid, and as we get more clean electricity, that's the thing that can work. You're never going to get like an electric plane. I just don't think like an electric motor is never going to be able to propel a plane. So yeah, I think that's going to happen. Of course, it could be the case we always go the long way around. Like maybe when you want to go to New York, you'll literally be like, you start in England, you go right across Russia over to Alaska.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe, I mean, even then, it'll probably still take less time than waiting in the airport terminals.
Very good.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think, I guess the only thing left to say is I have heard there's like an economic reason, like they want to leave you around because it's part of how like the airports pay for themselves, because you have to spend money.
It's like theme parks, isn't it? Like I think Disneyland is only like a mile or something, or whatever long, or what, but because they build in like paths and whatnot, they make you walk longer than the distance really is.
Yeah, I think that's it's clever, and I guess that's so. I think there's probably the economic aspect. I think honestly, like the security thing. I mean, I think the issue with planes is that there's obviously the hijacking element, so you can basically turn a plane into a projectile, not trajectile, projectile. Whereas obviously, because people do point out, you can just get on a train quite easily and blow it up. Like it's not really an issue there. But to be honest, you'll only kill the people on the train max, which sounds like a lot, but then you compare that's like 9/11 killed like 3,000 people, so it's a bit like that's why people like to make sure no one gets on planes with dodgy stuff. But yeah, the security isn't even the longest part; it is just the waiting around. So yeah, I agree. Airport terminals cancelled.
Excellent start to the podcast. Before we come on to the news headlines, if you want to get in touch with your comments and all your issues, Michael, where can they go to get in touch with us?
They can get in touch with us on the via email cancellcouncilYT@gmail.com. That's cancellcouncilYT@gmail.com. And where else can they get in touch with us, Luke?
They can find us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, on Facebook, and also on Discord. Is at CancellCouncilYT. It is CancellCouncilYT. Come check us out. We'll be sure to feature your comments. So, of course, just jump straight into the new headlines. As we said at the top of the recording, Prince Philip has died at the age of 99. We are now interrupting this broadcast.
We've got to start crying now.
The levels of news we can get out of this. I don't know where you want to start with this. I'm going to go with the fact that Ofcom, of all the people, have received a record number of complaints over Prince Philip. Would you like to know how many complaints they've received?
Oh, how many? Yeah, I did hear about this. I haven't heard the numbers though.
They've received, and bear in mind, this is protocol, which we'll come back to in a second. They received 109,741 complaints.
Blimey, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's because I remember hearing, because obviously what they're doing is they're showing kind of footage. Obviously, programming is or changed. I think they've kind of got over it now, but was changing to honor Prince Philip, lots of footage about it. And I think I'm right in saying they had the exact same program on BBC One and BBC Two, which is actually quite funny because my granddad, he's a very kind of I guess the best word I could think of for him would be like he's a statist. He's somebody who really likes the state, and for that reason, he only watches the BBC. It's the only thing he watches because he says, all this commercial stuff, all this, private, independent TV. No, thank you. I only like my British broadcast. But the other thing is, he's a Republican. He does not support the monarchy. So for him, it must have just been. I mean, he probably accounts for a good couple of 100 of those complaints, because I can just imagine, like that's the thing when you're. If you're somebody who's enthusiastic about the BBC, then you better be enthusiastic about monarchy, because the BBC is gonna just really let them take over the schedule.
Just for context, Piers Morgan, of course, who we discussed previously on the show, for his comments on Meghan Markle, our favourite royal, on the Council of Council, for his comments on Good Morning Britain, would you like to know how many complaints he received to Ofcom in comparison?
Yeah, I would. I was going to guess, but no. I just want to know.
Go on. Have a guess.
Okay. I feel like, so I'd assume it's less. I would think, 109,000 sounds like a lot. So maybe it's 10,000.
Oh, it's more than that. It's more than that.
Okay. 50,000.
You're warm. You're very warm.
60,000.
It's 57,000 complaints.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. Like how many complaints there are. Like I don't know, people.
Like bear in mind, and that was a month ago. That was a month from Piers Morgan to complaints about Prince Philip and following royal protocol.
Yeah, but that's the thing. With it, it's just that people find the whole thing kind of boring. And I found this out actually. I think it's kind of interesting. When the Queen dies, apparently there will not be allowed to be any comedy shows broadcast in the UK for a week. It might even be 2 weeks. So
I think we're still in this period of mourning and
I don't know if, because I would assume it's got to be less strict for or like kind of less extreme for Prince Philip. I don't know, because you've got to imagine it's kind of like there's a degree of like it gets more. It's like a bell curve, at the center is the Queen, and that's like how serious things are. But yeah, it is one of those things. I personally think it's silly. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the royal family as an institution, and I do think ultimately it's kind of a case of this idea of like national mourning, in some sense, I like it because I do like the idea of bringing people together. But I think it needs to be something where you can reasonably conclude that lots of people are going to be on board with it. And in the case of Prince Philip, there's nothing particularly special about him except for the fact he married the Queen. So it's kind of like, for example, I mean, I always think about how apparently when Charles de Gaulle, obviously the French president, died, France just went mental. Like there were, people just out weeping in the streets and things like that. But that's because Charles de Gaulle was like a massive, huge part of French politics and French society. Obviously, he was leading the French under World War II, and he led the French for even longer after that. Very popular guy. And I think that makes sense. But yeah, I think it's inevitable. In the UK, I don't know why, there are very few people who just like everyone likes. So it's kind of like we can't really have a thing of national mourning because it's like there's nobody out there who everybody's on board with mourning. Like, I mean, take Thatcher, for example. Like, she was a pretty huge part of British society, and there was not really national mourning when she passed. So yeah, that's kind of my attitude. I just think like it would be nice if there were actual things where the entire kind of British society could come together and be like kind of collectively feel a sense of remorse and like sadness, because I think it is good to have like things that are kind of collectively experienced. But Prince Philip dying, it's just not one of those things. He wasn't that great.
Yeah, of course.
But do you want to hear some hilarious things he said?
I was going to come on to more elements of it. Of course, the funeral being held on Saturday afternoon. Of course, as we said before about Meghan Markle, our favourite royal on the council, tensions are rife between William and Harry. They will not stand together at the funeral. They'll be separated by Peter Phillips, their cousin. I mean, just imagine being a fly on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like it's one of those things like, sometimes there are celebrity beefs and it's kind of like you feel like it's fake.
Yeah.
Like it'll be like you feel like actually these people, they don't really hate each other. Like realistically, how can, I don't know, Kanye West hate Drake or something? It's just like what are they gonna really hate each other about? But it's like, they just like to do something, for the clout, for the excitement.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's kind of like that with this. Like
it's far more legitimate because let's not forget, Prince Harry has called a member of the royal family a racist, and it's not Prince fucking Philip.
Yeah, that is okay. Yes, yeah. I mean, that is it. I do think. I mean, to be fair, I feel like it's one of those things. Like, I mean, this is a pretty obvious thing to say. If they weren't the royals, they'd be able to just sort it out. But it's because they've got to be the royal family. I feel like it just adds a whole layer of complication to it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I mean, I think it is really interesting. And again, I'll reiterate, I think I've said this before. I do wish, in a way, we lived back in the time where these things were solved with massive wars, because, it would be, instead it's kind of just like at the end of the day, I guess it feels more pointless, because it's sort of like, this is the kind of thing where back in the day you'd have like different sort of, lords and barons like coalescing around Harry and William. You'd be like, oh, shit's going to go down. But no, instead it's just going to be, they're just going to be grumpy with each other. But no, yeah, I do think, I mean, it's kind of interesting though, like Prince Philip dying, it adds a little bit of spice to the whole royal drama.
Yeah.
Like it was
especially,
not convenient,
especially so soon after the Oprah Winfrey interview. And then the way that they spoken out, it was just it couldn't be a perfect storm, could it?
Exactly.
It's all the pieces are falling into place, and
I'll tell you what though, it's kind of funny that we're talking about like having a national mourning period, and it's like everyone coming together. Even the royal family aren't coming together. So, how can they expect us to? But no, that's interesting. Anything else?
I think that's it. That's the only sort of 2 points I wanted to bring up.
I do think they're interesting now.
I can give you the runners and riders as to who will be attending the funeral. There's only 30 of them.
Oh yeah, because I did hear that he didn't want a state funeral, which sounds nice, but it's still probably going to be paid for. I mean, obviously, like how else are they going to? So it's like he's like, I don't want a state. A state funeral.
They're obviously going to send through the invoice somehow.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I think Yeah, he should pay for it.
So we've got the Queen, Prince of Wales, Duchess of Cornwall, Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, the Duke of Sussex, Duke of York, Beatrice, Eduardo Mapelli Mozzi, don't know who he is, Princess Eugenie and Jack Brisbank, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, Lady Louise Windsor, Viscount Severn, the Princess Royal, Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence, Peter Phillips, Sarah Tyndall, Mike Tyndall, Earl of Snowdon, Lady Sarah Chatto, Daniel Chatto, Duke of Gloucester, Duke of Kent.
See, I feel like this is kind of a forthcoming pointless round. Like at some point in the future, going to be like, we asked people to name as many attendants of Prince Philip's wedding as they could, and I'm going to remember this.
Yeah, no, the day that Prince Andrew will be pointless. This is where it gets interesting. Princess Alexandra, Bernard, hereditary Prince of Baden, Prince Donatus, Landgrave of Hesse, Prince Philip of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, and the Countess Mountbatten of Burma.
Countess Mountbatten of Burma. That is, what a title. Like, that's the thing. These people, they don't even sound like real people because they've all got these weird... it's like, we used to have a thing where our prime ministers didn't even have proper names. They're all like called Lord Palmerston and, Earl Grey. I don't know. They all had weird names. But anyway, yes, I think it's time we get on to the most important thing, which is our top quotes by Philip.
Let's go.
Okay, you ready? This is to an Aboriginal leader, William Bryn. Do you still throw spears at each other? That's fine. This one's an interesting one. To a native woman in Kenya, you are a woman, aren't you? So, I mean, to be fair, I think with like a lot of these Swahili African women, they shave their head, which obviously a lot of somebody like Prince Philip.
There was an island in the Pacific, I think.
Well, that worshipped him as a god.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how they're coping. Like, to be honest, I bet they wouldn't be. None of the complaints came from them. They're probably like, yes, finally our subscription to the BBC International was paid off. Just like, yeah, I mean that is I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know the whole story behind that. That's a whole thing in itself. Wow. To a British student in China, if you stay here much longer, you'll go home with slitty eyes. To black politician Lord Taylor of Warwick. First of all, Lord Taylor of Warwick. That's a name that sounds.
That's a name.
Yeah, but and what exotic part of the world do you come from? And he just goes, Warwick. To a tourist in Budapest. Okay, yeah, this one's actually not that bad. It just says you can't have been here long. You haven't got a pot belly. I mean, that one's just like, I don't know. Apparently, people in Budapest are fat. Yeah. Oh, actually, this one's better. Okay, to a 13-year-old boy, you could do with losing a little bit of weight. Thing is, like, that's what old people do, though. Like, old people. My Nana went through a phase of doing that. And to be fair, it worked. I used to drink beer, and I felt like I was getting a bit of a beer belly. And she literally said, "Looks like you're getting a bit of a beer belly." And nowadays, I don't really drink beer, so it worked. No, to be fair. And then to a nursing home resident in a wheelchair, do people trip over you? So that's good. I mean, that one's fair enough, I think. And to be fair, I don't think an old person would be upset about that. And on women in general, I don't think a prostitute is more moral than a wife, but they are doing the same thing. So, I mean,
wow.
You can make an argument that they do some of the same things. So, but at the end of the day, I do think like these offensive things that he said, I think it's one of those things where I don't think anyone can be seriously offended by them, because it's like, he's just some old guy who's like quite out of touch. And it's sort of like, whatever. So I guess, that's not a particularly controversial take, but there we go. Anyway, I've got a few other little news stories. They're all quite small, because, obviously Prince Philip dying was the big thing. But after outcry, this is from, is it Reuters or is it Reuters? Reuters, yeah, okay. After outcry, Vice removes images, adding smiles to Khmer Rouge victims. So they basically can. I'll just read you the first paragraph. Cambodia condemned images published by U.S. media group Vice featuring newly colorized photographs of Khmer Rouge killing fields victims, saying the images were an insult to the dead because some mugshots had been altered to add smiles. So, yeah, I mean, there we go. That's just a quite bizarre story. What do you think about adding smiles to victims of genocide?
I mean, it's different. It's a new one. I've never it's the almost the famous one about censorship. About the Vietnam child that was running naked.
Oh yeah.
And it's how we interpret it, I guess, for years to come. And I think a story like that is truly unique. Why are they smiling? Just why are they smiling?
Yeah, it doesn't actually. I don't know. To be honest, this is one of those things where I could find out the whole story, but I don't care. Okay, actually, it says wait. Okay, so apparently Vice was working with the victims' families, and so I guess they wanted to smile. But yeah, it does feel a bit strange to add a smile. I mean, I guess it's one of those things like people do talk about kind of smiling in the face of adversity and things like that. And I guess it is kind of a wry thing to do, if you like smile at someone when they're about to kill you. But obviously, yeah, I don't know why you kind of just.
I mean, it could be a lot worse. It's not as though those smiles were painted on.
Yes,
shall we say?
Yes, exactly.
Michael, what else we got here?
Yeah. Just two more. Related. They're both related to Black Lives Matter in a way. The first one is I don't know if you've heard this. There was a Daunte Wright shooting. U.S. ex-officer Kim Potter charged over killing. Now this was obviously the Chauvin trial is going on in America right now. And
I guess at time of recording, in the trial this week, he has declined the right to testify in the trial of George Floyd.
Yes. So basically, this was a shooting that also happened in Minnesota, and the interesting thing about this, and I don't know if you saw the video, but this is actually a tweet relating to the video having been shown, which is by John Lauritsen, who I guess is some kind of journalist, WCCO TV / Finding Minnesota. That's what I reported for. Brooklyn Center Chief Tim Gannon shows body camera footage from officer who shot Daunte Wright. Officer yells, "Taser, taser," but shoots Wright with a gun. Now, basically, this is how the video works. It's quite simple. So Daunte Wright is trying to kind of get away, resisting arrest, which obviously is a crime, but not one that you should be killed for. And she says, "Taser, taser, taser," and then she fires a gun, goes, "Holy shit!" And then she says, "I just shot him." And I think it's an interesting one because it does get to the fact that asides, and I do actually wonder, I was thinking this, whether or not it's perhaps a bit singular to focus on the racial aspect, because obviously in this case the guy who was shot happened to be black, but pretty clearly what happened here is that this woman was just woefully trained. Like this does not seem like it was an intentional thing. It does seem like she genuinely thought she was holding a taser when she in fact had a gun. And obviously, I think it's an interesting thing, and I'm wondering, I guess, to what extent do you think the issue of the fact that there's just like the police in America seem to be really untrained is a relevant factor that's perhaps being overlooked?
It's we've discussed it before, and I guess we'll discuss it again and again. I think to not answer your question, but to give a wider point, it's been. This is where I just quick do some research. It has been nearly 60 years, 58 years since Martin Luther King gave the "I Have a Dream" speech, right? And I don't know about you, but when we're taught that in school, we're taught that as a way of that's the turning point. And it just isn't true. It just isn't true. And I often wonder whether we will have another Martin Luther King moment in our time where we go back and think, okay, this has to be it. Obviously, the Black Lives Matter and taking the knee and what have you, it is a movement in itself, but it's changing a minimal ground. It's not making a drastic difference as such, especially during the time of pandemic. So it's only time will tell whether it is effective or not. But in terms of the impact in which we teach children that I have a dream and the equality and how Martin Luther King changed things, the reality is he hasn't really. It's a sad state of affairs.
I think that's definitely true, and I think it's true that it's. I guess the issue is the establishment in general will typically prefer to say things before they do things, and it's kind of like they'll say and they'll kind of honor certain important figures through words and things like that. But yeah, I will say on the subject specifically of shooting, it is one of those things. I'm very happy that I live in a country where there are not really any guns. This is maybe I don't know exactly what our audience would be and as to what extent this would be a hot take, but I do actually believe that when you have more guns in a society, you actually increase the amount of tyranny. In America, they believe that by having guns, they're able to kind of stand up for themselves and overcome tyranny. But the reality is that I think the reason why Americans feel that is because they genuinely feel like the police present a threat to them. And therefore their logic is, well, I need to arm myself so that I can defend myself against the police. But of course, the problem is that
it's the Second Amendment to right to bear arms,
Yeah. The problem is that the minute that the police have guns, then that means that there's now that kind of antagonism, there's that tension there. And I kind of do like how in the UK, and I hope this is something we're able to keep. I know obviously there were kind of armed policemen, and they have become a bit more of a thing in the wake of kind of knife attacks and things like that. But I like and hope we'll be able to retain the fact that you do not typically see armed policemen in the UK, because it does mean that even when people can be incompetent, even when things can get mismanaged and handled poorly in the UK, the reality is that it's not typically going to be at the cost of somebody's life. And, like I could find myself on the receiving end of some incredibly bad policing, whether it's, somebody just has no idea what they're doing. And yet, because there's not a gun involved in that situation, I'm quite happy. Whereas obviously in America, I would feel much less secure. If I'm getting pulled over, even as a white guy, I would think, well, what if they interpret something I do to be aggressive, and then maybe they, like try and drag me out of the car, and then I kind of grab for something, and then they, like there's so many examples. And obviously, yes, it does disproportionately affect black people. But the reality is that when you have a situation where you've got poorly trained policemen living in a society where anybody could be having a gun, you're going to see like policemen who are very trigger happy shooting people, or women in this case. Now here's a final story.
I was going to come in with one more story, to sort of steer away from how deep in the deep end of the pool we're in this week. So let's drag it out by its knees. Marks and Spencer has begun legal action against Aldi, arguing the supermarket's Cuthbert the Caterpillar cake infringes its Colin the Caterpillar trademark.
Okay, hold on a minute. So I know about the whole like caterpillar cake things, but here's the thing. Like a lot of the time at birthday parties, you will get kind of caterpillar cakes, which are they're like round cakes with.
Michael, stop. Right, the birthday cake is another issue for another council. There is a loaded gun in my hand that I can bring to the table. But let's just stick to Colin the Caterpillar at the moment. MMS claims that their similarity leads consumers to believe that they are of the same standard and rise on the coattails of M&S's reputation. It's lodged an intellectual property claim within the High Court this week. M&S wants Aldi to remove the product from sale and agree not to sell anything similar in the future. I mean, it's just cake. It's just cake.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, this is. I do wonder how similar they look. But it's just like Audi Caterpillar. Okay, wait. I'm gonna look at see if I can get an image. Yeah. So there's this. Oh, Cuthbert the Caterpillar and Colin. That's. Yeah, I mean, by the end of the day, it's kind of like even if it's one of those things where like it's almost like stealing it is so unnecessary that it barely even matters. Because kind of like, let's say they did steal it, they could have easily just named it something else instead. So does it really matter?
Dave.
You know,
Just
you
Dave
know?
the cake.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like they could just say caterpillar cake, and as you rightly point out, the cake isn't really the issue. Like anybody can come up with a cake that looks like a caterpillar. So yeah, if their issue is it says name that starts with C and then the caterpillar, it's not exactly.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like I don't know, they say riding on the coattails.
Mm.
Does anybody really know about Colin the caterpillar? I don't think so. So yes.
I mean, so it says here, Colin is central to M&S's partnership with cancer charity Macmillan, and the retailers created the
Okay.
Colin product for the annual World's Biggest Coffee Morning fundraising event. Product was launched around 30 years ago. It's been substantially unchanged since around 2004, except for like, obviously Halloween, Christmas, and recently for Valentine's Day,
Wow.
Connie the caterpillar. And again, like this is obviously not a not a first. In 2018, Nestle lost its battle to trademark the four-finger Kit Kat. Toblerone shape was registered in 98, but in 2017 faced a dispute with Poundland, who designed their own version of Toblerone.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lindt defeated a legal challenge in 2015 from Haribo, who sought to stop making its gold chocolate bears. So it's very much a thing in the food world, and obviously neither of us are too much of experts in neither a business but food. But it's cake. It's nice chocolate cake.
It's funny because like obviously they say like that it's been a big part of their interaction with this cancer charity, but then it's like they're also being incredibly kind of capitalistic about like saying like, oh, you know, nobody else can know about it. It's like, well, you know, in that case it's like it's for a cancer charity. Why would you even be being so kind of protectionist about it? And it suggests to me that it's really just about the Benjamins. But yeah, I definitely think
basically in a world with coronavirus and Prince Philip and Black Lives Matter, let the world eat cake. Let the world eat cake. Right, let's move on to your cancel issue, Michael. What have you got for me this week?
Yes, I am going to be cancelling music criticism.
Oh,
this is my beef. Okay,
this better be good. Bearing in mind, I'm just going to lay my cards on the table. You are talking to a student radio DJ over the past 4.5 years who has promoted not only local on-site music, but played the top hits each and every week. So, Michael Brown, proceed with caution.
This is my issue, okay? And it's something I think about with like relative to film criticism because, okay, here's an example. I don't really like the Lion King soundtrack. And that's people consider that insane, but the thing is like you can't really like this is my issue. There isn't really like an argument you can make when somebody doesn't like a piece of music. I would apply this to art criticism as well, like kind of paintings and stuff. Like you know, you can show me like I can show someone a Picasso and they can just say, no, I don't really like it. It doesn't do anything for me. And it's like I don't see how an art critic can be like, actually, no, objectively this is good. And I kind of feel like it's the same way about music. Like, for example, The Needle Drops. He made a video, a famous or infamous video, on, I think, Kanye West's album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And lots of people think that's a good album. And, you know, they kind of connect to it. It resonates with them. But The Needle Drops comes out and says, hey, you know, I actually don't really like this album. And he gives it a 6 out of 10, even though actually that's still a positive score. But, you know, like people don't like it. And then, okay, later on he comes out and he reviews Lil Pump's debut album. And he comes out and he says, you know what, this album is fun. It's got these, you know, really intense hooks. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. I mean, you know, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. You know, it's just stupid, ridiculous fun. But you know what, I like it because of how stupid it is, how fun it is. And for that reason, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. And his fans went mental because they were like, oh, you know, how can you say that Lil Pump is like this fun, catchy, you know, awesome, you know, like song that you like to listen to, and then Kanye West isn't. But the thing is, it's arbitrary. Like, for example, some people like classical music, some people don't. And it's like, that means that how can the opinion of a music critic be of any use to anyone? Because it's like, if that music critic likes classical music, they'll probably say like, oh, this classical music thing is really good. But if they don't like classical music, they'll probably say it was bad. And it's like, the way I look at it, it's sort of like the opinion of a music critic doesn't mean anything to me, because what really matters to me is, does somebody share my personal subjective taste in music? Like, let's say, for example, I actually don't know much about your taste in music, but let's say it turns out you and I actually agree on like, we like a lot of the same music. Well, if you tell me then that you like a song, then that's probably going to mean more to me than if some random music critic does, because I know that I tend to agree with you, let's say. And I think, for example, with films, it's different, because I think with films there's more there, that it's kind of like people tend to agree more objectively. Like, for example, bad acting in a film. Like, it's very rare that one person's going to come out thinking like, oh, the acting was, really good, and another person's going to come out thinking the acting was really bad, because it's pretty obvious what good and bad acting is. Or like, for example, special effects or animation. Like, nobody walks out of, I don't know, the Justice League movie thinking, yeah, the special effects were really convincing.
The Snyder Cut, huh?
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's kind of like, there are more kind of elements in films where people can agree on them, but the reality is, like, you could play, like, somebody might like the Beatles and somebody might like Napalm Death. And the reality is, Napalm Death is just a bunch of people screaming into a microphone, like, the Beatles are dum 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 dum, who knows how long I love you, etc. But it's like, you can't really say either person's wrong, and that's why, me personally, and the thing is, obviously, I'll say this. Okay, you said you're a DJ. I think like bringing music to people is a good thing, and like highlighting music. But I don't actually have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with, I guess, so I wouldn't say you're a music critic. I'd say you're a music curator. Somebody who brings all the stuff together and puts it out. But like, I wouldn't imagine you'd presume to be able to say, this music is objectively good and people should like it. You'd probably just, like, maybe you'd have a song that you personally like, and you kind of trust that if somebody listens to your show regularly and listens to the music you play, they'd like it too. But obviously, I don't imagine you'd sit there and go, oh, this song was a 9 out of 10. And if you did say that, it wouldn't really mean anything to anyone else, because they might have completely different standards. So that's why I just think music criticism is pointless. And I'm never, ever going to listen to a music critic's opinion or care what they say.
Okay. That is an interesting case served there by Mr. Brown there. You're right and you're wrong on different levels. Music is relative, okay? It's similar to film, similar to all forms of art, in that
the music sounds better with you.
I mean,
music sounds better with you.
I'm just gonna take a moment to let the viewer just take that in and understand what is going through your head.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm wearing a bit of like an old man DJ shirt. Yeah. I don't know, something about it.
It's a very blue shirt. So music is very much relative, in the sense that the official top 40 comes out every Friday afternoon. And that gives us data that tells us what songs have been listened to over a 7-day period and what's been listened to or not. Similar to the box office figures and so on and so forth. Yeah. Right. When you come to critique it, you are only taking one person's view. Mark Kermode is one of the most trusted and most well-known film critics. He's not going to tell somebody you shouldn't listen to it. He's only going to give him his constructive review of what he thinks. Similar with NME way back when. They're only going to give their own view on how they think it sounds, whether they like it or not. And it's just to touch upon your point about the Lion King soundtrack, is that you don't have to like the whole score from start to finish.
Yeah.
Circle of Life and
Circle of Life. I just can't wait to be kings.
Can't wait to be king.
Hakuna Matata. Be prepared. That song, it's like what is it? The one warrior. Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Yes, I would say Candle in the Wind. I would have been completely wrong.
Yeah, my friend, is Candle in the Wind. I don't know what the rules are about copyright. Like, can you get copyrighted
blowing in
a song?
The Wind.
I know.
And that's Bob Dylan.
I know.
Anyway,
I love
moving
getting
on,
my
moving
songs
swiftly on.
mixed
Anyway,
up.
yeah. So let it go. Let it go by Frozen. That was number one, and it was a huge
Yeah,
success
everyone loved it.
for Demi Lovato and thing. But the complete Frozen soundtrack wasn't good. It was that one track.
Although, actually,
that
you know
was,
what? I
that
really
was
liked the All my life has been a series of doors in my face, and then suddenly I bump into you.
yeah.
It's like, I've been searching my whole life. Actually, I don't know how it works. I don't know how the rest of it goes. Never mind. No,
Life is
but
an open door.
yeah, exactly. It's so beautiful. No, to be fair, like that's
It's
kind of the
very
thing.
incest.
Yeah, it is very. But I mean, the thing is, like, for example, I actually know somebody who is a kind of, they're actually a film critic, but they know a bit about music theory. And they were
Well,
saying how actually
I know a
Let
guy
It Go
who
is
does
incredibly formulaic.
yeah, I know a guy who does a film critic YouTube channel and watches films and
Exactly, yeah.
gives his own views.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. Michael.
I think that's the thing though, because with films, and this is kind of different, I have seen reviews of films that have changed my mind on the film. Like they've kind of pointed out things I'd never seen before. They pointed out maybe themes or like kind of character plot points, and I hadn't kind of put it together. Or they pointed out like deficiencies. Like they pointed out how like a character's logic is inconsistent, and I hadn't noticed that, and it's like changed my opinion. And the thing is, I guess what I'm saying is, I can't really ever see that happening with like a song. Like I can't see like at the end of the day with a song, I feel like it's very much kind of it's all very. This is gonna sound. I genuinely do think it's quite surface level. Like it's basically it's just what's there is there, and it's like there's not really like there's not character motivations in a song. So I feel like the thing is I do think do you know the channel Todd in the Shadows?
I do.
Yeah. Basically, I like what he does because he basically just kind of makes fun of some of the stupid lyrics in music. But yeah, the thing is, I don't think I don't really like, for example, what the Needle Drop does because I think he just sits there and like kind of says like, oh yeah, I liked this album, and it's like I don't really get what the entertainment value is there because it's like you're just hearing someone else's opinion on an album, and it's kind of just like just listen to it yourself, and it's like. Because yeah, there's no objectivity to it. I think like at the end of the day, if somebody says they like Lil Pump, I just think to myself, you know what? I think that makes sense. It's kind of upbeat, funky music. Yeah. It's intense. If someone says they like I don't know Taylor Swift, I'm like yeah, you know what? That's actually shake it off, do do do. But unless they like the rap bit, in which case they are objectively wrong. My ex-man. But no, yeah, that's the thing. Like,
a new girlfriend's just oh my god. Yeah. I'm just gonna to the hell of the guy with a good time. Would you come on over, baby? Would you shake?
The point is
that song is a fucking drug.
It's so good. No, yeah, but that's the thing. Like, basically, and also, of course, I find it weird, especially when people are like elitist about music. Like when people are like, "Oh, you like that music? Well, that music's not good." Like at the end of the day, I don't. I'm not one of those people who can pretend that I like Justin Bieber. I think it's kind of fun to be one of those people who pretends they do. But like, I don't like Justin Bieber. But like, at the end of the day, how am I gonna say like somebody's wrong for enjoying it? So yeah, I mean that's it. I guess it's kind of. It is what it is.
Okay, to consider your judgment, I'm gonna say no.
That's fine. I don't mind that. I think it's about time
there's one more point I want to say on that because obviously we've got the Oscars coming up, and I'm sure in future episodes that will be a topic for discussion.
Best Picture cancelled.
Yeah.
I've actually seen all the Best Picture nominees and was thinking about possibly commenting on them this episode, but I thought no, actually, because we're going to do another episode close to the Oscars.
Exactly.
But yeah, spoilers there. That's definitely what we're going to be talking about next week.
Spoiler for next week. But we have the Brit Awards, we have the Grammys, we have what have you, and without critique, knowledge and expertise within the industry, you're letting whatever's popular win the awards, aren't you?
Yeah,
without any fair bar. But like it's as simple as this. If you want to become a politician, you have an election. You have a fair and democratic system. It's not just who can scream the loudest is the most popular who's going to win.
Well, it is who.
I think you know what I'm trying to say.
I think what you're saying is there's a kind of there's I can't think of like the word.
There's a control variable in the sense that there's
a moderating effect. That's
yes,
what I meant to say. So it's kind of like there's, you have debates and things like that. So yeah, I guess what you're saying is that like having music criticism, it does make people. I guess I think that is actually a good point. I think it is good to encourage people to kind of expand their horizons when it comes to music. And yeah, because I guess the issue that maybe this is kind of the thing. I'm coming at it from the perspective of somebody who already has quite an eclectic appreciation for music, and I am actually one of those nerds who likes everything from classical to alternative rock to gangster rap, because I'm just a lame-o like that. But yeah, like, and that's the thing, like, obviously I guess if you're somebody who just listens to the top 40, then it's probably good that you can actually have other ways of finding music through music criticism. So yeah, good point, Luke. And just in time for this to be a 50-minute long episode. How long are our episodes?
I know, right? They're about this length, and I'm sure it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality, and that's what we deliver every single week here on the Council. If you want to get in touch with your comments, your views, and your issues for us to discuss, you can email us at councilcouncilYT@gmail.com. That is CANCELCOUNCILYT@gmail.com. God, that's got to win Best New Jingle at a podcast award somewhere. And you can get in touch with us on social media. That is CancelYT on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and over on the Train Criticals Discord. Links will be in the description. It is CANCELCOUNCILYT. Come check us out and we'll discuss your issues. Until next week, I have been Luke Walsh. That has been Michael Brown. See you next week on the Council.
Back at you. That was good. You need to go get your food.
Yeah, I'm starving, and I've got.
All right. I actually always assumed you were one of those people who eat